This week on the Owner's Pride podcast, Brian and I sit down with Shawn Gervais, the CEO of OrbisX, and discuss what to do with all of those customers once you get them into your CRM by activating sales funnels. Then we take a field trip to the zoo to learn about Go-Rilla marketing. I can assure you, though, the only thing we're going to fling at you are ideas on how to grow your business. As usual, I'm excited, so let's get to this.
Welcome to the Owner's Pride podcast, where we discuss all aspects of auto detailing with successful detailers and industry leaders around the world. From San Diego, California, your host and our friend, Dan E. Williams. Take it away, Danny.
Welcome to the Owner's Pride podcast. I'm here today with my co-host, Mr. Brian Prescott. Brian, how are you today, sir?
Oh man, I am doing excellent. It is like 55 degrees outside. You can see a little sun on my face. Oh, it's feeling good.
Beautiful. See, I'm here in San Diego. It's actually probably colder than that today. Cloudy and raining, oddly enough. How do you like that? Crazy. Okay, and then we have Shawn Gervais, who you guys might recognize from a couple weeks ago. He is the CEO of OrbisX, the CRM system, and well, among a plethora of other businesses. Shawn, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fantastic, yeah. And my weather's kind of in between both of yours. but outside of that, doing really well.
And I guess I have to touch back to our last podcast. What's everybody's footwear today?
Yeah.
I'm wearing like some dad shoes. Got my New Balances on.
I got socks on today.
Okay. Nice. I'm prepped for my run after this. I usually run a mile every day, and so I have a run after this. So I've got on my my Nikes. That's about it. But,
all right.
Yeah,
fair enough. And
last time was flip flops.
Yeah,
I mean,
if that makes no sense. You got to go back and listen to the first podcast.
I've gotten to the age where I have inside house shoes.
Yeah,
or just inside walking around, because it's just better support. It really is, for me at least.
It is loafers. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just turned 30, so maybe up next you got prostate issues coming.
Yeah.
That's the sequence of events, right? Yeah. The indoor shoes and then prostate issues.
I need like a timeline of what I need to watch out for.
Yeah.
Well,
that'll scare you.
Okay, so we had you on here a couple weeks ago, and we talked about OrbisX, the CRM system, and I believe that several of our people have flocked over there and started to implement this into their business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the feedback's been great so far too. We had a chance to have a lot of meaningful conversations with a lot of them as well. So it went beyond just, sign up and then, oh, thanks, see you later. They reached out, which was great. That's what we encourage, because we want to play an active role in helping them, not just set up the software, but really set up the business for that whole customer experience side of things. So we had a lot of great conversations, met a lot of great people as well. So it's been great. Absolutely.
Yeah, I would imagine that having some good support and helping people get everything set up is imperative to this learning how to use the CRM, because it's so new to most people.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially for a lot of detailers that have never really ventured down the software or technology road before. They just kind of, put up some ads and started just cleaning cars, things like that. So it can really help. There's a lot of options available in a CRM. Some apply depending on what the business is. So it can be overwhelming to some. Not necessarily because the software is complex, but more just the concept of how these tools can help the business, trying to figure out what you need and what you don't. Exactly. It's like anything else. Absolutely. So we do our best to make it a piece of cake, because everyone likes cake.
I like cake. I like cake for sure.
Absolutely.
So what are some particular maybe pain points that we could touch on right here that might be preemptively helping somebody out who's trying to learn this?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest pain points is trying to figure out how to use technology to solve the problems in their business. And so what the first discussion we usually have is, their communication with the customers. So what is, walk us through the process of, customer calls you, or the email or live chat or however they reach you, what happens next? And then we walk through that process, because every shop is a little bit different. So we walk them through that process, and we identify the actual features that'll help their business right away, day one. And then we say, okay, let's schedule another time to talk about some more advanced features. Like, we have automated bad weather notifications. That may not be needed right, day one if they have a problem with, confirming appointments or sending reminders. Let's tackle those problems first.
Yeah,
So the
not
first
a big
thing
issue on there.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, and those are really beneficial features. But day one kind of thing, let's walk us through the process. Let's solve, the getting in the door part first, and then we'll work on refining things later. So we had a lot of really meaningful conversations surrounding customer communications and getting people booked. And then the big thing, as you remember from our last conversation, is that I'm huge on upsells and increasing the ticket value size. Because you're running a business. And so, it's one thing to bring in customers, but it's another to take those customers and either A, get them to come back more frequently, B, get them to refer more people, or C, get them to spend more. So we try and tackle
all
those,
of the above.
all of the above. Absolutely. Exactly. See, unlike, your school grades, this is where a D is actually a good thing. So absolutely. But
so you kind of dig in and see what their process is like, right? Because process
absolutely.
is a huge key component of running a business.
Oh, process is everything.
A beautiful lead in, Brian. So
nice segue.
So we do our sales coaching with our network of Owner's Pride installers, and a couple of the first things that we try to line them up on is they need a CRM to be able to organize that information. And B, and these are the first two. The reason this is the first two things is because 99.9% of the guys that we talk to, these are the first two things that they've just not taken care of.
No foundation.
No foundation.
Yeah.
So we're trying to put a roof on something, and there's no foundation. So you got the CRM, and once we get them hooked up with that, then we work on a sales process. And my business coach, I always say, is Walt Dabrowski. And he is from the F&I world. He's an F&I trainer for dealerships. And he always says, even a bad process is better than no process at all. And really, people don't have a process for closing sales and following up. So before we start really diving into helping people get more business, we try to put that foundation in. Which leads me, and Brian, to kind of want to expose a little bit of what our sales process is, and then how that can be implemented into OrbisX. Yeah?
Yep,
So I'm just gonna pop on the screen here real quick just to kind of show a little overview of a sales flow chart. Up here you collect the information, you either close the sale, yes, and then there's steps, and then if you don't close the sale, there's steps here that go for multiple days. In OrbisX, how can we take our process, or what is the process that you have, and implement that for the detailers? And does that work with the AI stuff where it does automatically, or is this all manual? And Brian, go ahead and say yours.
I just want to say, if you guys are listening to this, you can find it on YouTube, so you can kind of see the flow chart that Dan just shared, because it may be confusing, like what is this? And
Excellent
also
point.
make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast.
Absolutely. And hit the little notification bell. Don't forget that.
Heck yeah. And then write down a review.
Yes, there we go.
Back to our scheduled program.
Yeah. And so absolutely. So having a plan and a process is hugely important. And as you walked me through before with that, the flow chart you have, that's a terrific process to walk people through. And it's one that with OrbisX, you can automate a lot of it. And then artificial intelligence can help fill in some of the gaps as well. So we have a complete lead automation follow-up system where you can set up drip emails and drip text messages that'll go out periodically to them, and you specify the timeframes. So in this case, someone could take your flow chart and mimic that directly.
And
go ahead.
So
Dan.
I know it might be a little kind of weird or chunky, but can you just take me through that process? So
Yeah, absolutely.
They've collected the information and they put it into their CRM.
Absolutely.
Then what happens?
So they put it into the CRM, and then depending on the rules that they've set, it'll do different things. So I'll use the example of, so at our shop, we have a shop as well. We don't just make software. We also have a detailing shop. And at our shop, we put in a lead, and then we have it set up to do different things on different days. So after one day, it'll follow up with the customer because sometimes we're busy or we've collected too many leads. We just can't follow up on all of them, or we tried by phone, and then, it's nice to just get them an email message, but we don't have time to send out every message to everybody. Sometimes you forget. So the system goes through, sends them a message that we've pre-made, and we put in customizable fields, like, with their service and things like that. So it's a generic message, but it changes based on what they've asked for. It'll send them a message saying like, hey, yesterday you asked us about ceramic coating. Are you still looking into it? We'll have some helpful links, things like that. A little sales pitch to kind of nudge them along into making a decision. If we don't hear from them for 2 or 3 days, it'll send them another message, and it'll have a different message. And we always tweak it so it kind of piques their interest a little bit and gets them a little further in the sales funnel. Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
How does the detailer business owner follow along through the process? Are they alerted to every step along the way, or does the customer have to engage to it for them to be alerted?
Okay, good question. So the detailer has some choices depending on their notification settings. They can be alerted for things. At our shop, we we turn them off usually because we're putting in around 50 to 60 leads a day. So that would just drive our guys mental. But depending on your level of business with your volume, that's an option that you have as well. And so it does track also full communication history between prospects. So it'll follow up with them at your scheduled intervals, but also the artificial intelligence steps in as well to fill in some gaps. So following up at different parts in your flow chart, for example, following up with customers, a few months later, things like that. That's not something you have to remember to do. The artificial intelligence will follow up with your customers as well, and it does that not just by following, like, oh, every 3 months follow up with this person. It'll actually scan your calendar as well to see, like, maybe you're super slammed in 3 months. So following up with those customers then doesn't make much sense because you're not even going to be able to handle the workload. So the AI looks at your calendar, it can see you're busy, and it'll suggest slower days instead.
Okay. So my brain is accepting the first part of the flow chart of the process, sure, of the funnel, where you're getting a new customer and you're putting them into there, and you're going to run them through trying to touch them multiple days in a row to close a sale. And if you don't, then we're going to put them into an email campaign down the road, which I suppose is going to be a sales funnel in its own right.
Just with a more stale lead at that point. Yeah.
So how would you engage, like, say you've been putting your leads in there for a year and you've got 500 leads in your CRM. How would you use a sales funnel to try to re-engage with those customers, either customers that you've closed before or that are just in non-closed customers? And would you set those up to hit people different if they've gotten a service for you? And I would sorry if I'm being really rudimentary here, but again,
it's important though.
If we remember from the last time, this was how I used to do it up until 2016.
Yeah, exactly. So. Absolutely. No. And great questions. And no, it makes sense. First off, it is rudimentary because this goes back to the foundation of a business is the whole communication side and the outreach. Without that, those customers and prospects, even if you've done business with them before, they're liable to just be scooped up by some other shop. Because you're not at the front of their mind. There's a reason why Coca-Cola still advertises on television and so on and so forth. Everybody's familiar with the brand, but if they're not in front of your mind, then they're going to be forgotten about. And they understand that very basic principle. So it's important to stay top of mind for all of these customers and prospects, but definitely handle them in different ways. So if someone's already said yes to you before, you've already done business with them, you want to approach that prospect a little bit differently. So they've already experienced, this great, experience that you've put together for customers. For your leads, if they haven't said yes already, I would recommend following up by phone, for example. Try and get them on a call, because that way you can transfer that emotion to them in a way that you can't do with email and stuff. Now, I'm talking about stale leads. You haven't heard from this person at all. You've messaged them a bunch of times. The AI tried to do its best. You haven't heard from them in 6 months, let's say. I would try and reignite that fire. And it's going to take a little more effort than, just something automated. But the great thing there is that presents an opportunity now where you can really talk to that customer and find out one of two things: A, how you can get them to do business with you, or B, why they simply said no. Or ignored you. And so it's a way that you can start to find the issues. And maybe it was, oh, you know, you followed up too much. Personally, I don't think that such a thing exists.
Yeah.
However, I'll hammer your phone all day long if I can.
Yeah.
But some people will say that, but it's a chance to really hammer down those objections and say, like, hey, listen, like, what is it? And never accept the first objection. Be like, okay, so if it wasn't that I was messaging you too much, what could any possible other reason be that you would have said no? And try and find the real root of the objection, right?
And making a call, you can really, I love making calls just due to the fact of, if a person's going to take my call, they're potentially semi-serious about my service. And then I can push the call the way I want it to go. With text message or an email, you really can't do that because there's no emotion, there's no nothing in there for you to feed off real time. And like you said, ask them, like, why. Don't be afraid to ask your customer, like, why didn't you do this? Why this or that? And I mean, you get good enough on the phone, you can even kind of call them out on their BS of their brush off or whatever. And that's how you can kind of push the conversation the way you want it to go. So I love phone calls for sure.
Absolutely. I'm the same way. And a good way to get over that fear, because everyone has it, is just pretend, and this is what I instruct my sales guys to do, is let's say a friend didn't make it to your birthday party. So now you want to call them and figure out why they couldn't make it, you know, and they're going to tell you, oh, you know, I was tied up doing that. No. What was the real reason? Just pretend you're calling a friend. It doesn't have to be a scary thing. And then just ask some pertinent questions and you'll get to the bottom of it. And there's nothing to be scared of. They're not going to jump through the phone and, you know, attack you or something. You know? So believe it or not, more people are actually receptive once you get them on the phone to just talking and answering some questions, you know, so take advantage of that.
I mean, so would that just be a rainy day project? Like, it's raining and you got nothing to do, so I'm going to start calling these? Or is there a way
I think it has to become part of your plan. Okay. I think it has to be something you do plan. So I think just with your flow chart, I think that was a very, you know, micro scale, like as if you're looking through a microscope and you're really fine tuning the early days of that prospect. But I think if you were to zoom out, I think you're going to see a lot more in that funnel as well. Because even calling existing customers, like you've already done business with them, even if they're on a maintenance package and you see them every month or something like that, it doesn't hurt once in a while to give them a call. So what we do is we try and find out some, you know, information about them, or if they mention something, we note it down in their account. And this is where OrbisX is great because it has a journal. So if someone mentions like, oh, sorry, I was running late, you know, I had to take out my wife's dogs or something like that. Okay, great. We put that in the notes. Next time we talk to that person, we'll just ask them about the dogs. So what we're doing right now, because of COVID, what's going on, we're actually reaching out to some customers and we're just saying like, hey, just wanted to check in on you guys. We're just calling customers, making sure everything's okay. How's that red Camry? Oh, you know, the car's great. You know, this and that. Okay, great. Listen, thanks. You have a good day. Literally before we get a chance to hang up, he'll say, you know what? While I have you on the phone, I love that. Thanks for opening the door. What can I sell you and when can I see you? You know? So it's little things like this where that's a good example of how we would approach existing customers differently than leads. So there's opportunities on both ends of the spectrum. You can close existing business from your existing customers. Even if you came in for a detail yesterday and you were a frequent customer, I'm going to call you the next day. Just make sure everything was good. Did we miss anything? And by the way, I know birds of a feather flock together, and we love working with you. Give me 3 names that you know I could help out some of your friends. You know, I'm sure you got at least 3. You know,
so
you know, if you don't ask, you don't
get.
Go ahead, Brian.
Exactly. So one of my installers called me. He's like, Brian, it's slow, nothing's going on, and I was like, man, call every single one of your existing customers. They've wrote you a 5-star review. They've gave you money, and they're most likely going to call back. I mean, or you know, pick up your phone call, and most people. Actually, most all people generally want to help you out. People love being someone's hero. And that's the role and game that we see on movies or whatever. Everybody loves to be a hero. And so if you put your customer in that hero position, like, hey, Shawn, you know, how have things been going? I was just wondering, if you wanted to get in for a detail. We haven't seen you for a while. If you don't, do you have anybody that you know that could benefit from my services? And so I let him know that. I was like, man, this is what you should do. This is what I would do. And he called me back like 2 days later, and he's like, hey, I'm booked solid for 2 weeks now. Just because of some phone calls, because people they know you do a good job and you're an entrepreneur, you work hard and you're very passionate about it, and people want to help you out. They really do. And that's why I'm big on even reviews as well. Like, people are scared to ask their customers for a review. Your customers gonna love to write you a review,
Absolutely.
So minusing out any of the does this go into your is this something that you would just make notes of in your CRM, or is there a way?
It's a few things.
Okay.
So we would make notes of everything, like set reminders. So just as much as with the appointment calendar, you can actually book jobs, obviously, because that's what the CRM is supposed to do. You can also set yourself reminders, and you can set them on a per client basis. So you could go in and you could set up a recurring reminder, for example, not attached to a service or anything like that, but just a recurring reminder. Call Jim every 6 months and see how his dog is doing. His dog just got back home from the vet. Just call and see how the dog's doing. Random things like that. And then when the time comes, you can either dismiss it or you can follow up, depending on if you've seen Jim or not, right? But then the AI also does a good job of following up. It's not as personal as a phone call, but it's at least something you don't have to think about. And it happens automatically. You don't even have to set it up. The system just does it. The minute you become an Orbis subscriber, it's done for you. The system follows up and asks for referrals, but it plays on that hero complex that you were mentioning before, Brian, where it'll say, hey, listen, the system knows if it's Wednesday, for example, and it'll say, hey, listen, Brian, I need 15 more referrals before the end of the week. I really want to, make my bosses happy. If you could give me 3 referrals right now, it'll get me that much closer to my goal. And that works so well because you're putting an exact time frame on it. You're giving a reason behind why you're asking for referrals.
A little bit too.
Exactly. And then similarly, if let's say it's Thursday, you might have to give them a little more time. So it'll say, hey, listen, the weekend's approaching. I need to meet my quota by next Wednesday. You could really be a big part of that. So I need 3 names. And it takes them right to a form, and it just name, phone number, name, phone number, name, phone number. You enter that in, and then now I've got that information. I can follow up on them and say, hey, I got your name from Brian. He told me to give you a call. He said that you'd be really happy with our service, What kind of vehicle was it that I could book in for you? Do you have 1 or 2? Could I get them both in the same day? Do you need a ride? You just take the conversation over from there. But it's referrals are huge, and it needs to be part of your process. And following up on prospects by phone is hugely, hugely helpful. If you're scared of the phone or something like that, don't worry. The AI's got your back, and it'll take care of it as well for you.
And maybe you've answered this already, but you said pick up the phone, but as we showed in our flow chart that we talked about earlier, we tell them to send an email and then the next day to send a text or a phone call. Is there a time that it makes more sense that you use text advertising or email advertising or phone? Like, you don't want to be calling somebody who, even if you did a ceramic coating on their car, hey, Ted, how you doing? How's Mona? You can get a little too personal maybe.
Absolutely. And I do think that that's where certain things, we like to program our own notes, like our own calendar event of follow-ups for specific things like that, like how's Mona, for example. But most other things, we'll reach out all the time. And so we'll have a customer and we'll have maybe 12 different events in our plan for how to reach out to that one customer throughout the year. Some of it's follow-up on past appointments. Some of it's to book a new appointment. Other times it's to send us referrals, so on and so forth. And we do it through all different methods, email, phone, to Facebook sometimes, text message. Some of it's automated. Some of it's us actually doing the work. So I don't really think there's a limit per se on how many times. It's just the objective behind each of those touch points needs to change. And you got to be smart about it and literally sit down and plan it out just as much as you'd plan out your week for, how you're going to handle the jobs. plan out how you're going to do your customer touch points as well. And once you make that plan, it can change here and there, year to year, month to month, whatever. But start with a plan. You have to start with a process. If you don't, then you're planning to fail. And so that's really important.
At that point, you're working on your business and not in it, right?
Yes.
You know, an hour a day or something.
Exactly.
Like this month I know I've made at least 250 phone calls. Like Beautiful. That's just making sure you're going through and just touching base. It's a lot simpler than people think, but it's scary, right? Like, oh, I'm just gonna call Shawn out of the blue, like. Yeah. But most of the time your customers could be like, oh man, how's it going? Like, oh, it's been going great,
absolutely.
Hey, you want to come over to the house and have a beer or something? Like that's how my customers always reacted to me. It was a very nice, personable thing.
Absolutely. And once you start getting into that habit, it just becomes second nature and it just becomes part of your business. And the good thing is that then your customers start to expect it as well. And so keeping that relationship going, hearing from you more often, it's going to be, oh yeah, I usually hear from Shawn every, a couple of weeks or every month or something like that. It's not abnormal, and you can actually increase the frequency sometimes with which you ask for things. So we used to, okay, we'll ask for referrals every 3 months. Now we ask every month. Absolutely. Yeah, we're like, hey, listen, like, who do you got for me this month? You know what I mean? Like, I need your help again, and people come to expect it. Their lives are so busy. A month will fly by and it feels like a year for them. So take advantage of that and just reach out more often. And they'll let you know too. They'll let you know either by not taking your calls anymore or by just telling you, hey, listen, I gave you 3 last month. I don't have anybody for you. Okay, lison, no problem. If I'm calling too much, no problem. I just wanted to check in,
Mona's going to leave me if you keep calling.
Exactly.
So I mean,
and then go ahead.
The way I look at it is just an hour a day, like that's not hard. Even if you're just leaving messages, it's just a touch, right? And they see that, and then you have a program like OrbisX that does it automatically for you. So then you're not doing it 5 hours a day. Now you have an hour a day of personal. Then you're working the rest of it, doing your detailing, and then the AI is taking care of it in the background. Like this is this is a recipe or a license to print money. Like that's how I look at it.
It really is. It's an ATM in your living room.
and gosh, without putting the people into a system like a CRM to keep track of them, you really just
you get lost.
You can't do any of this. I mean, and there's so much that's getting left behind. I think this is really people are coming on board. I think everybody's seeing the light.
Yeah, absolutely, which is good because there's so much business out there. And even if I've talked to a lot of detailers before that they were doing well. They built themselves a nice little cushion of customers, things like that. But then they'd have slow periods, things like that. They didn't know what to do, and they didn't even realize that the times that they thought were good times, they could have actually been doing 10 times that volume, if not even more. But they just didn't know because they weren't doing this kind of outreach. So that's where having a process in place, even if your business is going as you think well, you don't realize all the shots that you're missing because you're not taking them.
What kind of ideas do you have, whether be it through the CRM or just organically, to help get more reviews? Because I know reviews are so important.
Absolutely.
There's nothing that I buy without checking the reviews. Angel just got a new wok that got delivered last night. She picked that one because it had the best reviews. So,
absolutely.
Reviews, so important.
Reviews are huge, and that's where, like, our shop, we have 450 plus 5-star reviews. Good. And we're a year and a half in. The other shops, they've been around 10 plus years, and they've got like 30. So it makes it.
I'm gonna guess that you do have a way to get reviews.
I do, in fact. Absolutely, and it really just comes back to just asking. So we do ask when they're at the appointment. We ask when they pick up their car, for example. But we also have the system automatically send them a request for a review as well. And we do ours a little bit differently. We don't just send you, hey, here's the link, leave us a review, please. we play on the same hero complex, and we send it to them. We say, it would really help if, things like that. You could help us reach our quota of getting to the next level. And then we send them a thumbs up and a thumbs down rather than just a link. So then they click on the thumbs up and it takes them to the review page where they can put that in for Google. If they click the thumbs down, we don't send them to Google though. We send them to a form where they can give us back, some feedback and stuff like that, because we don't want them to, if you're unhappy, we actually want to hear about it, and we don't necessarily need the world to hear about it, because we can usually fix that, right? So that's that. And then the other part of it is we make sure that every customer, if they haven't, they didn't bite on that, they didn't bite when we asked them in person, that's where you follow up with a phone call. So this is where, once again, it goes with the phone call, and we say, hey, listen, this will really help us out if you could do that. And even if they're going to leave us a tip, for example, in the tip jar, we'll tell them sometimes, like, listen, no, don't worry about the tip. The best tip you can give us, leave us a 5-star review. That's the best thing you can do for us. So we make that a point.
And your poor employees that are in there, they look at you.
Money in the jar.
Okay, I was going to say the employees just go.
So I hate
my boss.
I'm going to implement some rules, but last night in my live video, I did mention that, like, people wanted to give me a $20 tip. I'm like, no, give me a Google review. Yeah. But I have here a bottle that any of our installers could win if they get the most Google reviews this year, because it's huge incentive. Not only, you can make a lot of money off the bottle, right? But you're going to make more money off those reviews, because people are going to see, oh my gosh, you got 150 5-star reviews, whatever, So I've challenged all the installers of OP, they have to at least meet a minimum of 50 to even qualify to win a bottle. But whoever gets the most reviews, I'm going to send them a bottle out of my pocket, send it to them. And
you're doing this for 2021, right?
Yeah, 2021.
You mind if I sweeten the pot a little bit?
Okay, let's do it.
Whoever gets the most reviews gets that bottle, and they also get OrbisX for life, for free.
For life, for free.
For life, for free.
Macaroni.
There we go.
I'm gonna
sweeten the pot.
what I'll do here is after
and
we get off
is a $1,200 a year value.
Yeah,
exactly. Times their life.
Time their life, yes. And all those golden reviews that you're going to get, and people aren't even going to care about the money. They're going to be like, oh my gosh, you're the best in town. Let's make this happen. That's the premise you want to make for your customers.
Absolutely. I like this contest. This is good.
Yeah. Wow. No, so how are you running that, Brian? Do they have to send you a photo of from X date or something?
I'm gonna write a little, rule book, right? So it's gonna be simple. You have to be an active installer. It has to be, reviews from this year. It's gonna, take a whole year, and I'll make a post out there, and I'll have to go and count people's reviews, which is gonna not be fun for me.
Couldn't they just send you a screenshot or something? And it would have the date of the review.
I don't know how you can. I don't know if you can screenshot how many reviews period you got, but at least I can go and verify it on their actual Google page, because some people don't even have Google. They're not verified on Google, which just blows my mind. And if you're listening to this right now and you're not verified on Google, shame on you, because it's money to be had.
There's a possibility today that your name is just going to be changed into the Shifter. Brian the Shifter Prescott, because perfect way to shift gears into the next thing that I'd like to talk about. And that's
like driving conversation certain ways.
Over into your marketing side of your business, Shawn. And,
sure, absolutely.
And so let's touch a little bit on what you do for marketing that can help people.
Okay, sure.
And then we had kind of discussed some free, like the Google marketing ideas that we can throw at people that they can implement. Some Go-Rilla marketing.
Go-Rilla. Yeah, the Go-Rilla. Exactly. So absolutely. So yeah, we have a marketing agency. We do a lot of marketing, and so that's how we were able to take our creative minds and apply it to our own business. So that's where like I knew nothing about car detailing, anything like that. We just had a warehouse, set it up. Anyway, I outline it all in the book, so I won't dive into that. But it's a free book, by the way. Anyway, so our marketing, it's a little different than normal. We do some of the traditional stuff. We pay for Google ads, things like that, but it's a very small component to our marketing strategies. We focus a lot more on things where you can use your own energies or just do creative out of the box thinking. In our last conversation with the last interview, I talked about the parking lot trick that we do, where we get flyers printed, and it'll say, thank you for shopping at the Aberdeen Mall. And we go and we plaster them all over cars, and it has little discount that they can use at our shop. They think they got it from the mall, and really it was from us. And so those kind of methods. So I'm really big on things that you can do that don't cost a lot of money, doesn't cost a lot of money to get things printed. Then you just go distribute them, so it's just your time. And then with that, we don't usually offer a discount, like a percentage discount, because percentages don't have any, it's an intrinsic value. It doesn't really mean anything to the customer. They say percent off what, like how much do I have to spend? So, okay, 10% off, but I have to spend $1,000. So it's, to them, they don't know what that means. Instead, we usually give a gift. So that's one of our marketing strategies is we don't do the percent off. We do a gift, something like that. And sometimes we do it in a cool way too, where customers come in. This is another great way you can do things, is we ask someone for referrals, and we say, if you give us a referral on the spot, name a number right now before you leave, someone that we can call, you get to put your hand in this big bag, and in the bottom of the bag is a bunch of ping pong balls. And one of the ping pong balls will say, like you get $5 off or $20 off, and some of them say free. So you don't have to pay anything. So just for giving us some referrals right now on the spot, you get to dive into the ping pong ball bag. So that's something that we do with people. So little things like that where you can drum up more business on the spot. So you're getting the review, but then you're also saying, hey, listen, and that experience alone, when they talk to their friends, they say, you're not going to believe this. I went and got my car detailed. They played this game with me. I dug my hand in the thing, and then, like crazy stuff like that.
I gave a referral, and then I felt his balls.
Exactly.
I hope you don't edit that out, please.
Okay.
And we took money, so technically I think there's a problem there. But
Yeah.
Is there
Well, it's
some
almost
kind
like
of a
spin the wheel, right?
Is there some kind of a
It's the same
back rub
kind of concept.
motivator?
yeah, I think that's the nail salon above us, actually. But,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the type of things that we do. So one big thing we did, and actually I was talking with one of your members like 2 or 3 days ago when they had signed up and they were asking for different marketing strategies, and I was telling them some of the things that we've done. A big one that we've done is we look at places where someone's going to be without their vehicle for a period of time, and those become our new strategic partners. So for example, barbershops. Thank you. That's what I was leading into. The golf course. Exactly. And so we have this whole thing where it's clean while you play. And so basically they go ahead, Dan. I see you're biting at the...
I see there is a guy here in San Diego that sets up at a strip club and details cars in the strip club parking lot at night. He's always set up
money,
there.
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. And they pay him with singles, of course. And, fantastic.
Man.
Hey, no, that's great though. Yeah, it's that kind of thinking, the creative thinking. He found his own little niche. Like nobody else is doing that, and someone's going to be without their vehicle for a period of time. And while they're doing their thing, they want to come back out to a clean car. Makes sense.
The only bummer is every night he leaves broke.
Yeah. But the memories, Dan. Absolutely.
I mean, even servicing apartment complexes at night.
Yep, absolutely.
I know a guy that does that. Things does very well.
See, exactly. You just got to think of where people are, where they congregate, and that brings me to another strategy that we do is we find community groups. So, for example, every city's got like a cribbage group or a group that they play darts and things like that. There's all these little niche groups where people do very specific activities, and the great thing is those people are usually like-minded, and once you get your foot in the door, it spreads like wildfire throughout the group.
Yeah.
Exactly, and they usually even have competitions through other areas, and so it spreads to those groups as well. Or a member will be, you know, married to someone that's in another group. So it's just, the groups are a really good way to go, because you're getting, once your foot's in that door, it's easy, and so you can make something specific for them. So that's what we did, is we made very specific like packages just for them. It was our same regular package, we just gave it a name for whatever club it was, and then they felt like they were exclusive, so they felt like they were getting something. And we'd be like, yeah, you know, when you call in, just mention you're part of that group, we'll look it up, and it doesn't matter what group calls, they all get the same package. It just has a different name, you know. But it's a way of really building a loyal following for your business, and those guys are great for reviews too. So
no, I kind of one of the Go-Rilla marketing deals that I did, that was a freebie, is I started a Facebook page years back called San Diego Car Shows, because I have a hot rod and I go to car shows. And what I did was I found two of the really prolific people in the Southern California car scene who were always posting about where the car shows were. I brought them on. They run it. And then I was able to, you know, and it's still, we have over 4,000 people on there. It's called San Diego Car Shows on Facebook.
Beautiful.
And I can drop an ad in there whenever I want, because it's mine. And if anybody else, like another detailer tried to come touch in there, and I was like, nope.
Exactly. Fully exclusive.
That's a pretty cool Go-Rilla marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's easy to do. It's something someone could do anywhere. You know, so,
I mean, geez, what, it takes you 10 minutes to set up a Facebook page, like, you know, a group page, and then start inviting everybody and their mom to it? Like, easy.
It's true. The key to that kind of a thing is you don't want to go in there and just whip it out. You really want to, you know, much like, say if you go in a Tesla forum and you start going in there and answering questions, and you try to build credibility without trying to sell to people real hard, and be, you know, subtle and
show them how to wash their car, you know.
Yep, absolutely.
With some products.
And even for the most part, the San Diego Car Shows, like, that hardly gets an ad in it at all. It's just but you have that people group together.
Yeah, absolutely. No, see, that's genius. Then you can even set that up for other type of, you know, like vertical markets, for example. Like, even if it's not relating specifically to cars, it could be something that maybe, I don't know, maybe you like making candles on the side or something. Well, people that make candles have cars, you know, so so you can do these kinds of things, and wherever you're drawing in a crowd is basically what you want. So that's no, that's fantastic. I'm just thinking, like, for the guys that maybe, you know, don't know enough about how to start that thing up. If you're passionate about something else too, you can set up a group for that. It's all about just getting those people together, and now you have a platform where you can talk to them. So,
well, it's just getting yourself out there, you know, as Dan always says, the omnipresence. You know, you should be on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, you know, just putting out something out there, because the more backlinks, the more fingers you have into everything, is people are going to find you.
It's true. Actually, you know, there's one thing we do too, because we do a lot of cork boards, like, you know, community centers, libraries, grocery stores, wherever they have those cork boards.
Posting up a flyer.
Here, soccer fields, hockey arenas, all kinds of things. We put those up there, and we do the ones with the numbers where you can pull it off. But it's not something we printed at home. It's professionally printed and designed, and then they can pull off the numbers. It's got perforated tabs, all that stuff. It looks nice. It didn't cost a whole lot of money, but it just separates you from the other things on the community bulletin board. And then you just have to drive around and put them up, and then go check on them periodically, because if they run out of numbers, things like that. And that's where you also get smart too. We put the numbers that you can pull off, but then we also put the number and the website address on the actual flyer itself, so that when the numbers are all pulled off, people aren't just looking at, you know, like, oh, Auto World, get your code detailed. There's nothing there. Exactly. You got to have something, you know. But these are things that are virtually free you can do, and you need to be out there. It's the number one question I see all the time is like, well, what should I do? Should I do YouTube, or should I do Instagram, or should I do, you know, Facebook? Or you got to do it all. You have to do it all. It's just, what are you going to start with today? And that depends on what do you have more of? Do you have more time than you do money? Do you have more money than you do time? Do you have enough staff to handle these things? Like blanketing a parking lot, if it's you by yourself, you're probably going to be exhausted the next day. You can't even clean cars. So maybe you do it on a Sunday or something like that. But there's ways. You got to just assess your resources and figure out what you can get done today, and then make that a routine. And then now what can I add to that funnel? So you got to plan it out too, because as much as you're planning to follow up with your customers, you have to plan your own business in that way, where you have a calendar of things that you're going to do as well.
Back into the zoo with that Go-Rilla free marketing. What's next?
Back into the zoo. I love it. So some other things we do here is we're big on like Uber drivers and things like that. So what we've done is we give some cards to a lot of our clients as well, and we say, look, sometimes if you're without your vehicle and you're taking an Uber, make sure to give the Uber driver one of our cards, because they have a budget to get their cars clean. And so the card that they give them, though, it talks about we have a product that we use for interior like ceramic stuff right now, and actually I need to talk to you guys about
I was
that.
just gonna say, what the why did we never even that'll be one that we have offline, I guess, but yeah. What the heck am I
I know. See, I was wondering. I was like, they didn't pitch it to me, but I was like, I'll wait and see.
Oh, we played the long game.
Well, I mean,
I figured as much.
411. We got to soft sell it first, and then really jump in.
Exactly.
The forehead tattoo's coming.
Yeah, exactly. By the end of this, I've got crates in my living room. So yeah, exactly. I love it. And but it's great for like the Uber drivers and stuff because it protects their vehicle. You've got a bunch of strangers in there, and especially nowadays where, like keeping your vehicle clean is even more important if you're going to be transporting people around. So those kind of products are very beneficial. So if you have something like that, if flip it over and it's like, hey, let us do owner's pride interior ceramic for you, and it'll cost X. It's a really good way of, we get those customers to ask, Uber drivers and things like that for referrals for us. They don't even know these people.
Well, after they get that treatment from you, if someone happened to just get in the back of their car and make a rip or a burn or a tear, guess what? That would be covered, right? So that is the beauty of having that owner's pride compliant warranty with that interior coating.
Exactly.
See, I just pitched it to you right there.
Exactly. And with OrbisX, we can fully track that warranty within the system as well. So when they have a claim, it'll show up in our system as well as on your end. So see, there we go. The symbiotic
synergy. Yes.
Exactly. I love it.
All right. Well,
that's perfect.
There's the lions and bears. Back over to that Go-Rilla marketing. What we got next?
Yeah. So aside from those things, there's things you can do as well with your employees, and it's something that a lot of people don't think of. So this is more for people that have employees. So your employees are going out and they have a social life as well outside of work. So a lot of them, they want to kind of leave work there, right? So that's where we have a lot of incentive programs internally for staff as well that bring in referrals. And that's an important thing that a lot of people overlook. They just think that, they work for me, so they're going to promote my business naturally. That's not the case. When they leave work, they don't want to talk about work. They don't want to think about work. In most cases, So we set up programs that we really make it more like a family, and we make sure that we do a lot of things for the family. So if we know that so and so has a new baby coming up, in addition to their time off and stuff, we make sure that we're sending them things that they need, or we make sure they have that support. And then when it's all said and done, we make sure that there's little things like we shut our place down once and we set up a photo shoot, and so they had a photographer come in and take like the baby pictures and all that stuff for them. So that was really special for them. And we do that, we don't charge them for anything. It's just more to keep up morale. But then outside of that, whenever we ask them for things like, hey, listen, I know you're going to that, you asked for a day off because you want to go to this, concert. This was before all this shutdown stuff. But we say, when you're at the concert, make sure if you hand out some stuff, and if we have special cards for you, if we get any referrals from that, then it's going to equate to more time off. So that's what we did, is instead of just, like, oh, here's a dollar value, we knew they just had a baby, they wanted to be home, things like that. So we said, you can actually earn time off. And then what would happen at the time, I was the one filling in the shifts. So I would come in and work the extra time that they were off and stuff like that. So little things like that, but work your resources. So if you have employees, there's ways of guerrilla marketing from external sources, but also, within your own organization as well.
Yeah, I would always, I didn't have multiple employees, generally speaking, but I would have one guy, and I would give them a bonus for any work that they brought in. That was like a
beautiful
coding job.
Absolutely. I mean, no, it's so important to do that.
It's work that I wouldn't have had otherwise. I mean,
exactly.
And they're taken care of, and okay, I'll do this again, and it's just more money in everybody's pocket, really.
Yep, exactly.
All right, so we've hit on some really cool, like, free Go-Rilla marketing ideas, and we got another 10-15 minutes left here. I would like to just touch on, and this is going to stick with your marketing side, branding and how to properly brand your business. And I would suppose that had you not really set this up from the beginning, which most people probably don't think deeply enough to set it up, as we send everybody that we start working with to read Building a Story Brand first, which is just a really cool book to open your mind up to it. But how would you suggest to go about starting a brand new business to start branding, and a business that's already established and maybe just hasn't exceeded at branding themselves?
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so first thing I would say is a lot of people spend a little too much time thinking about like the name or what they want to go with for their company kind of thing, without realizing that the beautiful thing is you can change that at any time. Nothing says you're locked in stone. Companies do it all the time. They add on a little piece, or they modify things. They tweak their brand a bit because you're going to need to refresh things as you go, or maybe do things for seasonality. So don't spend a ton of time into it. In terms of like, just get the business started and start with something that makes sense, and then tweak it and see how it evolves over time as your company grows. That's just kind of a side note. But the other part is think of something that's somewhat generic to a degree, because a lot of people, they'll box themselves into a corner. If they say like Dave's Detailing, well, I guess you're never planning on doing tinting. You know what I mean? So it's things like that. Or what's your succession plan? Like if you want to sell the business, or you want to exit out, or have someone just take over.
I'm still salty that Dustin changed the name from Big D's Mobile Detailing when I sold the business to him.
He's a Dustin. He's a D.
Right. And he could have used my cartoon head. I used a caricature of my own cartoon head plastered this big on the side of the van.
Beautiful. Yeah. See? Yeah.
So I did not follow the rule, and I was still able to sell my business, but I think that my jobs and connections are kind of help push that through for me.
Absolutely. And it is still doable. Absolutely. But yeah, and I think it was the big cartoon head that really sold it. But see? Exactly, I would have placed a bid. But so I think that, like with us, we went with Auto World because it was a little more generic, and it opened us up to, like, now we do remote car installers, like our remote starters, windshield replacements, chip fix, tinting, wraps, you name it, we do it all. So it really made sense that way for us. Which is fine. I mean, you can, like I said, you can always tweak things, you can always change things. So if you have to change it later on or something like that, that's fine. But at least, Dave's Detailing, for example, it would have what you do in it, which is helpful, because I've seen some names that it just doesn't even make sense. It'll be like cherry bomb potions or something. You're like, what do you guys do? And I understand you like that fragrance for the car in the end, but to a customer, it doesn't make any sense. So that's an important element.
So maybe as far as like your coloring and your logos, is it just like best to do what makes the most sense to you, or is there some kind of a formula? I mean, I know that orangish yellow Amazon color is kind of a psychological thing that makes people click on stuff.
Sure, exactly. And there are formulas, absolutely. And so it is important for you to pick something that appeals to yourself as well. But you have to remember that, like, what are you in this for? If this was a hobby, then make it all about you. But if this is a business, you need to focus on what works for the customers. So certain colors will incite, things about practicality or affordability, like purples for royalty, things like that. Like there are definitely colors, and you can find these online. You can go, look at like color swatches and, color codes that work
millions of dollars figuring out what colors work. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely. Like I've got some clients that spent a fortune, small fortune at least, on logos, just tweaking things back and forth, and it didn't have anything to do with the text. Didn't have anything to do with the slogan or the actual icons used. It was just colors going back and forth. There was focus groups involved and all kinds of stuff. But it is important. And I mean, don't give up too many of your Saturdays to do this in the beginning. You'll figure things out as you go. It's more if you're just starting out. Just the biggest thing is just get going. But it is something that you should be working on with your business as well, because it's really important. It's going to be the face of the company. And on that note, you should be putting your face everywhere. It should be everywhere, and you should be, watermarking. Exactly. See, put that big head on everything. Watermark your photos when you upload them. Put it on your website, and not just at the top. Put it, if you make a little flyer and you put that on your website, make sure your logo's in there as well. So I'm sure you guys are familiar with Mark Victor Johansson, his books, Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So first off, genius behind that, getting other people to give you stories. But anyway, so he was at a conference and he had a little sign-up sheet, and he was doing public speaking, things like that. And he basically put his phone number like 7 times on the same piece of paper. And it was, like, oh, invest in this course and this and that, and then phone number, and then a little spiel, phone number, little spiel, phone number, all on one side, huge phone numbers. And you're thinking, why did he put so many phone numbers? He wants you to call. That's why he put his phone number 7 times, And so same thing with your logo, put it everywhere you can, because you want people to see it, right? So you want them to see. Yes, exactly. And on that note, the biggest thing with branding is make sure it's something you can see from a distance, that's going to print well. If you're getting it designed, make sure you have the proper files, or else you're going to end up in headaches later. So what you really want is like a vector file. Ask your designer for that, because that way you have something that can scale without issue. Because the worst thing is if you start doing your branding and you have this really great looking flyer, but then you have this fuzzy logo that no one can even read, that's not memorable. It's not. It's in fact, if it is, it's going to be for the wrong reasons. So, stand out.
Yeah, another little piece that I always feels very important, and I think this has to do with branding, is that you look professional. I see some of the guys who they're just wearing, like, everybody's wearing mismatched clothes, and they maybe have a T-shirt on, something that makes no sense to their business. And I always at my, and I guess I'm the mismatched T-shirt guy today. I just didn't even think about it. I'm just wearing a shirt, but I always tried to make it look like my business was huge. Like, it was way bigger than it was. And we always wore a collared shirt and Dickies shorts. And, like, it was just...
Well, Dan, didn't you tell me a story where somebody called you, hey, I see one of your vans going down the highway?
Used to happen
and
all the time.
Dan only has one van.
Yep. Used to happen all the time. Now,
that's amazing.
Kind of make me laugh. But yeah, so you try to make it look like a big fleet of plumber vehicles, or or whatever.
Exactly. Well, that's just it. Like, if you look at your favorite sports team, if they showed up and they were just wearing a regular T-shirt, and they were just wearing some regular shorts and stuff, it wouldn't give you the same feeling of unity and that they're an actual team and that they're professional until they put on the jerseys. That's when wearing the uniform works. And as a detailer, and more importantly as a business owner, you have a uniform, and it's either one that you've chosen or one that's being applied to you by the customer, what they see you wearing. So show up that way. So we do the same thing. All our guys have polos, logo on there, stuff on the back. Even if they're working in the back and they're not going to see a customer all day, just on the off chance that they have to. But also whenever they're on their lunch break and they go somewhere, they're sitting down having a pizza somewhere, it's important that our brand is out there and people see it and they recognize that. So absolutely.
So I got one more, and then we'll probably wrap it up and this one might be relevant because you have a printing company and a marketing company. But is there a way to, because I think as somebody with a really nice, like a Ferrari or something, they're not going to want to put a sticker on their car. But what is a way that you could somehow put something, a license plate frame? Is there any kind of a thing that you guys are aware of where you could get that customer to basically be advertising for you every time they're driving the car around without being a little crazy about it?
Without being a little crazy about it, sure. So yeah, definitely, it's a little more tricky if you wanted to do like, car magnets or something like that. The guy's probably not putting that on the side of his car. But definitely things like that will help a lot. In terms of driving by, the one issue I would say is that people only really see this whenever the car's parked, right? Because if let's say it was on license plate, would be a good one. Yeah, true. And then people will see it behind there. That could work. There are things that are removable as well that don't damage surfaces. In terms of like, we have vinyl that we have that's it'll stick to most surfaces, but it is removable and doesn't damage paint and things like that. But still, I think you're left with that same problem where the guy's going to be like, I don't want to put that on my car. Yeah. It could happen, and if you don't ask, the answer is no. But if you do ask, the answer might be, you know what, I don't mind. Sure, you might have a really cool guy with a really chill with a Ferrari. Who knows?
I mean, everybody's got a license plate frame. They, usually whatever's from the dealership, and they just leave it on their car, no matter what kind of car it is. I take it off mine immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, I do the same. And but I do think that license plates, you can get those printed as well. So at our shop, we don't print that. That's very more like specialized product. But we can order them and print them. We have a DTG machine for it. But anyway, that's something we could talk about later. Maybe we'll set something up, you know. But it is doable. That is something. You are limited a little on space in a sense. But that's something to consider. There might be something that could be done if you found a way to tie that in with a benefit for the customer as well. I think that would, you know, they get something free if they have it on
license
there.
Plate cover on every time you come in, you get, you know, a free something.
Yeah,
something
yeah,
easy.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
but
see?
On that note, though,
okay, go ahead.
It does make me think, though. I do know a lot of guys, they're out there detailing stuff, and they're using their personal vehicle, and it's not branded at all. And on that note, just to touch on that, definitely for your own car, at least just get some car magnets. They're very, you know, affordable. Clean the surface well. Make sure that you put them on there. If not, they'll fly off at high speeds. Or get some removable vinyl decals and put them on the side. Definitely, make sure your car is branded.
It may not be the same in Canada, but in the U.S., if you have it on there and it's like fixed on your car, not like a magnet that you pull off, you can write the vehicle off too. You can write that stuff off for advertising.
Exactly, it's the same here. Absolutely, yeah.
That's why I bought my hot rod, and I wrote the whole thing off because I put in the back little windows, Big D's Mobile Detailing. Took it to car shows.
Fantastic, yeah. See, that was a business expense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, okay, cool. Well, thank you, Shawn. Thanks so much for coming on.
Absolutely.
And you know, we touched over. We went to the zoo and threw out some good
Go-Rilla
Go-Rilla marketing ideas that are free. We talked about how to engage that sales funnel side of stuff, and we are on the right page with that. So anybody who's taken our sales coaching with Brian and I, let's get the sales funnel built into your CRM. We talked a little bit about reviews and branding. I think we've covered a lot of stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. Perfect.
Good, wholesome, simple, basic stuff that, you know, anybody can do. You can just take a few minutes out of your day and make these things happen. So listen to this podcast twice if you need to, because there's a lot of good nuggets in here.
And keep an eye
and then when you're done, go back a third time.
keep an eye peeled for Brian and Shawn's contest for a free bottle of Owner's Pride ceramic coating. You got to be one of our installers to touch that, and a free lifetime.
Oh, no,
I'm sorry,
lifetime.
I mean, man,
they
if you're in your
get the free
20s,
year.
this could be worth millions of dollars if you live well into your 500s.
It pays over time. Yeah.
All right.
Exactly.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to be on the Owner's Pride podcast. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Dan.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Owner's Pride podcast. Questions and comments, leave them for us on the Owner's Pride podcast Facebook page. And until next time, stay glossy.
We hope you've enjoyed today's presentation of the Owner's Pride podcast. To learn more about our products, become an authorized installer, or to get a quote, visit ownerspride.com.